For P1-2, I want to use this for one of the optional cam. So I'm going to pick the origin in the upper left corner. It can still be any quadrant you want to work in, any direction. But looking at this, we are in inches, and then the notch in the center, we'll talk about contours and regions. We'll start that conversation. We're not going to get too far into it, but contours and regions versus going through and doing a trim. So the geometry is not overly complicated. We'll go with a rectangle and then the two circles. And rather than defining the circle positions independently, we'll use a horizontal relation. So let me get up. Okay, figure out what I'm doing here. There we go. All right, get that out of the way. Oh, where did my SolidWorks go? All right, so we're going to launch SolidWorks. And there's the previous two items that we worked on. So if I go into the part, so one of the things to keep in mind with the home or the welcome is this is going to go to the default part, and most of the time we're going to want to be in advance. So unless there's something showing up in the recent, a lot of times I just click through this, but I do want to make the point here that going into the part, mine is showing inch, pounds, and seconds. Going to encourage you to make it a habit to look in that bottom right corner and say, my drawing, my project is in inches, and I am currently in inches. Um, we'll um, we'll have a video on what happens when we draw in metric and it should have been inches, or draw in inches and it should have been metric. All right, so the other reason that really we need the part templates is that I don't want to go through and make these setting changes every time. So turning the origin on, going back to my document units, which is the same as coming up to the options little gear. The difference is going to the bottom right corner takes me directly to the document properties, directly to units. So we're in 3 decimal places. And millimeters is set to none. So we could go to 2 decimal places. I don't not really too worried about that one. But those are probably the ones that I would change immediately. There was a few others in that video that are nice to haves. All right, so we're going to pick the plane that we want to sketch in. And if you go to sketch, that's going to show you all 3 planes and require you to pick one. I'm going to encourage you to pick the plane that you want. And for the first couple of assignments, the front plane is going to be fine. So we'll go into the sketch. All right, so just clicking on it brings up the context menu. And if you hover, it will tell you what that command is. All right, so our visual clues that we are in the sketch, we have a confirmation corner. Accepting the sketch, except it's an empty sketch, it's not going to like that. Exiting the sketch, which it'll let you do. We have the red origin, which the long leg is vertical, short leg is horizontal. And on our status bar, it says we are currently editing the sketch. All right, so as I mentioned, I'm going to go to the corner rectangle, and I'm looking for that snap. I want one corner in some form or fashion. We need to attach part of our sketch to the origin to get to fully defined. If I draw it out here in space and put dimensions on it, I'm not sure why you would do that, but it's a possibility. We're better off letting it snap, and when I see the little yellow box with the coincident, then I can click, and in this case I let go. So I'm going to click, and if I watch the numbers, all right, they're not going to be that big, but again, I'm going to get close to my 4 by 2.5. Close enough. All right, and then if we go up to the fit, that'll zoom in on the screen. When we add our first dimension, if I left it at the original, I think I saw a 12-inch go across there. If I'd left it at that and clicked, when I apply this first dimension, that would have updated. All right, so that just happened to hit lucky on the midpoint, and that's gonna happen from time to time. So I'm just gonna escape. As long as I only hit escape once, that's going to leave me in the dimension command. All right, so picking the object and then finding a place for the dimension, clicking to place the dimension, entering the value, and accepting it. And then we'll come over and do the same thing. And I really am just hitting those midpoints. So I want to be a little bit off center, and you can kind of see that yellow popping up. That is one you would want to watch for. All right, so we could pretty much leave it at that. We have the notch, and if I do the line, and I'm just doing the click, and I'm getting better at the double click at the end. So if you are in the line and you right click, there is an end and a transition to arc, which we will talk about later. So 1.5 to 2.5, and then we had the overall. Oh yeah, and the 1 inch on the depth. So back into the smart dimension, pick the object, place the dimension, enter the value, and okie dokie it. All right, in this case, I'm going between two objects. So that is the 1.5, place the dimension, enter the value, and then between two objects, place the dimension, enter the value, hit enter. All right, so any of these that I want to change because the parametric is driving the geometry. Let's just grab that one. Maybe I want to make that one 1.5. Double clicking on it puts me back into that dimension modify button, and then I can make those changes. All right, and then everybody's favorite tool, the Control Z. So the move, the dimension, we're back to where we started. And that is the same as coming up here to the undo. But Control Z on the keyboard is kind of the universal undo. And then I can't help myself but tinker with the positions. All right, so this puts us in a place where we have two regions. We have this larger shape, and then we have the square. So I'm going to extrude this first, and I do want it to kind of generate a basic error that comes up. So first we need to put in the circles. So place the circle and click. All right, and I really only want to dimension these once. There's two holes, 1/2 inch. So clicking on the perimeter of the circle, placing the dimension, entering the value, hitting enter. And then between the two, we have the 2.5 and 0.75 from the edge. And it's getting a little busier, and 0.75 from the top. All right, so that should have put one of them to be fully defined, but my best diagnostic tool, if I expect it to do something and I still have blue underdefined geometry, if I left click and hold down and drag, what is it doing? All right, and left click and drag, it moves up and down. Doesn't really do anything on the perimeter. So this would be something that I want to set a horizontal relation. Now we can go up to display delete relations and add a relation that way, but the control button on the keyboard is going to be select. In this case, the center point, hold down the control button and select. So select, control, select. If you recognize the icon, then hover over it, it'll tell you to make horizontal, or we can always come over to the property manager and horizontal. The next one that I would be interested in is to select the circle, hold down the control button, select the other circle, and we're going to set those to equal. So what that's doing is if I had two circles or 100 circles that were all set to equal, when I change the value of one, I'm changing the value of all of them. So 0.5. And let's get out of this sketch and go back into it. So one of the things that happens with the metric changing from inch to metric is it may kick me out of the sketch. Or maybe I think I'm done, or I need to go check something and I just want to save. It's not the best practice to save the part file while you're in a sketch. So if we get this far and all of a sudden I'm back to this location, I can highlight the sketch and go directly into the feature, into the extrude, but maybe I want to make some changes, or if I want to make some changes after I've completed the extrusion, I can right click and edit sketch. Now I have a habit of right clicking, so we could have also done the left click and we had the condense, but I kind of sometimes I like the extended context menu, so all right, so we'll go with the condensed, left click on the sketch, edit the sketch, and now we're back in. All right, so I want to extrude this feature. Notice that the circles are a little bit darker because they are a fully nested region. So we have the work area, kind of our first level. This isn't overlapping or doing anything weird. So the square is at the same level as the rest of the geometry, but the circles being fully nested, they go a little bit darker. And if we put geometry or had an overlap, it would go a little bit darker gray yet. All right, so let's go ahead and extrude this. And I want it to go away from me. So if I grab that arrow, we can send it that way, and 0.5 in the dimension and tab. But we have that strange because there are multiple regions. It's actually asking for another piece of information. So at the bottom is the selected contours, and if I pick that contour, right, and double check the direction, then that is going to pick the whole thing. If I clear that out and pick the perimeter, it's still going to be a solid. For all of the geometry, it's not going to include the holes or the notch. And then if I go back and I pick a partial, it doesn't really like that, so I could pick the region in between. Did it jump out? Yeah, I think I clicked out of it somewhere. So if I go with those two, and then this starts more along the discussions of the solid bodies because they're not connected to each other. I would have a solid body 1, solid body 2, and a solid body 3. All right, so none of those really what I want. So I want to right click and clear the selections. And I'm going to go back to the original and reverse the direction. Oh, and I happen to turn on the direction too. So with the checkbox in direction 2, I need to just uncheck that and get it out of the way. My single arrow is coming towards me and the double arrow is going away, so I do want it to go that away from me, and then I can go ahead and accept it. All right, so there are some things that after we have the extrude, let's go ahead and save this because I'm pretty happy with that one. So this is P1-2, put my initials on it, and it's going to save to the part SLDPRT. And we save it. Okay, so one of the things that can happen then, and one of the tools you might want to use, but since I've kind of adopted the contours and regions as a strategy, I have not used the trim as much, if at all. So under the trim entities, we have the power trim, which is the drag and everything it crosses. Corners, trim away inside, trim away outside. Well, I'm already not doing trim that much, so just trimming to closest will get me what I need. So whatever is highlighted, since I'm not going to go through and trim a bunch of things, um, trimming one item to closest and then accepting the trim and then accepting the sketch, well, that didn't generate an error because I haven't done anything. The region is still there. If I had picked the outside and done the solid first and created additional features to put this geometry in, it might have seen that as an error because geometry that was there isn't there anymore. So we're going to start building into the observe and react, where when you make some changes or you try some different things, that you will be able to start to decipher or project what could possibly happen and see if it plays out that way. All right, so there's our part. I'm going to go ahead and just save it again since that was fine and working, and we'll end the video here.